Kathy Griffin got canned by CNN this afternoon, a day after she posted a picture of herself posing ISIS-style with Donald Trump's bloody severed head. The image itself was appalling, violent, creepy, weird. But it was also, and this may be the main problem, totally unfunny. Kathy Griffin bills herself as a comedian, but this was not comedy. It was a political stunt of the dumbest kind. Your 8th grader wouldn't do it. It was too stupid. And it wasn't a departure for Griffin. She hasn't been funny in years, assuming she ever was. People clap for her not because they're amused, but because they agree with her politics. That's not art, it's affirmation. But an awful lot of comedy is like that all of a sudden. Ever watch Samantha Bee? If you like preachy self-righteousness in massive doses, that's the show for you. Or try John Oliver, you get the same thing there. Or Bill Maher, or Trevor Noah, or Stephen Colbert. Some of these guys used to be funny a long time ago. They're not Samantha Bee, she was never funny. Now they're just playing to the biases and the vanities of their audience. And it's working, unfortunately, which means they're all exactly the same. Prisoners of conformity, which is always the sworn enemy of art. Step out of line and you pay the price, as Dave Chappelle, who is a genius, learned when he returned from retirement not long ago and dared to gore a sacred cow or two. That used to be what comedians did, and we were grateful to hear someone tell the truth. Now they're booed off the stage for even daring to do that. Humor is dead. Politics killed it. Ben Kissel is a comedian. He joins us to mourn. Now, Ben, I know we're not on the same side politically. I doubt any comedian agrees with my politics, but I think you'll agree that Kathy Griffin is just not funny. And I know a lot of people who work in comedy. I don't know one person who thinks Kathy Griffin is talented. She's not, and yet she's hung on all these years because she's a political activist. And that's enough, and it shouldn't be enough.
Yeah, I mean, I am not the core demographic for Kathy Griffin. Her fan base enjoys her, and there's something to be said about that. I think there might be a bit of a misnomer because she is a comedian. It doesn't necessarily mean, however, that all of her actions, all of her moments of satire are meant to solicit laughter. I think she was attempting to make a political point that obviously has angered a lot on the right, and certainly even some on the left. But I think we do have to address the issue of political correctness and how it has gone completely bonkers in this country. And the right for the longest time called the left snowflakes. But where I'm sitting, it's cold in here, and the snow is falling not from the left, but from the right.
Well, let me just be totally clear. I'm never going to call for anybody's firing for saying something stupid on television as someone who said stupid things on television. I'm against the mob forcing anyone from a job, and it happens all the time, and I'm not into it. But let's just be totally real about Kathy Griffin. She's totally mediocre. Like, it's not when you say, well, just because she's a comedian doesn't mean she has to be funny. If you say you're a surgeon, you got to be able to take my appendix out, or you're not really a surgeon. Well, there should be a bar for, being funny, and she doesn't meet it.
You know, I'm not going to go into if she's funny or not. It's a very subjective thing. I do just want to focus on her First Amendment rights to, for this satire. It should exist, or she has the First Amendment right to do so, the same way that Ted Nugent had a First Amendment right to shoot an effigy of Barack Obama in 2012, the same way that that rodeo clown who was fired from the rodeo for putting on a Barack Obama mask had the right to his own form of satire as well.
The First Amendment, which I support vehemently, doesn't mean anything if you can't exercise it. And comedians feel that they have to toe a certain line, and you know because you're in this business, they are not free to deviate from the received wisdom on anything. Conformity is enforced. And that is, you can't create art in that environment.
I'm not exactly sure if that's true. I mean, obviously, Kathy Griffin has learned when you do put yourself out there, there will be a blowback. And again, that is well within the individual's rights to have the blowback of her actions. Of course, she can also do those actions. I mean, I think we have to look at it as a whole. You know, the right for the longest time has been demonized in the left for being politically correct. This is an opportunity for the right to stand up and say, hey, you know what? I'm not for this. I think this is abhorrent, but she has a right to do it.
Well, but
I mean, Ted Nugent, for crying out loud.
I know. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to talk to you about art, though, which is more meaningful, I think, than politics because it pertains to human expression and what people really care about and what they really believe. I'll give you an example, and it is political, but it's the perfect example. The kid who gave the speech or the supposed comedy deal at the White House Correspondents' Dinner was, totally mediocre. And he was there because he hates Trump. Here's a clip from him. Watch this.
Donald Trump doesn't care about free speech. The man who tweets everything that enters his head refuses to acknowledge the amendment that allows him to do it. Think about it. It's almost, what is it, 11? It's 11 p.m. right now. In 4 hours, Donald Trump will be tweeting about how bad Nicki Minaj bombed at this dinner. And he'll be doing it completely sober. And that's his right. And I'm proud that all of us are here tonight to defend that right, even if the man in the White House never would.
Oh, God. Stop with the preaching. Does anybody ever stop with the preaching? I mean, seriously.
I could go for less preaching. There is no denying that. But just again, just to hammer home the point, it was her right. Ted Nugent was just recently in the Oval Office with Donald Trump.
Whatever.
And Donald Trump did. He is fortunate because this has been a distraction.
But I want someone to tell the truth, don't you? So when Dave Chappelle, everyone acknowledges Dave Chappelle's a really talented guy, and he comes back, and he doesn't know the rules have changed, and he tells jokes about transgenders or whatever, and all of a sudden he's like attacked by everyone because that's not allowed. Some things are off limits. How can comedians allow anything to be off limits? I thought that was the whole point. You were brave enough to tell the whole truth, but you're not. You're cowards.
I completely agree with you. Comedians should be able to push the envelope, cross the line. That's exactly what Kathy Griffin did here. It's cost her monetarily. She lost Squatty Potty and the CNN
she didn't cross
New York,
the line. She was playing for her friends, all her
Eve
sanctimonious friends. It was like the 9 people in her world were like, "Go, Kathy, that's so brave." But it's not. It doesn't tell a deeper truth about anything. It's like crap.
Well, this again is this is an opportunity for the right to stand up for the First Amendment and don't be politically correct and allow people to do this. And you're allowed to protest Kathy Griffin all you want.
I'm sorry, Ben, that they got you captive over there. Great to see you tonight.
Thank you, Tucker.
Well, Kathy Griffin's beheading photo op was big news yesterday that you wouldn't have been able to tell by watching CNN. Joe Concha does watch CNN for a living. He writes about media for The Hill, and he joins us right now. So, Joe, this was a big story, but not over there?
It wasn't covered as much, nearly. Of course not. This was embarrassing for CNN. Granted, she's only on there once a year, but still, that is an employee that they were paying to do the New Year's Eve special with Anderson Cooper. But give Kathy Griffin, I'm going to give her some credit here, Tucker, because she's the first person in years to bring the left and the right together in denouncing one issue. When you could have Keith Olbermann, Chelsea Clinton, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump all saying that photo's bad, you know, we're really onto something here.
Well, that's but CNN wasn't part of that. They were sort of standing alone here, and that's because it wasn't news, or no one was talking about it, or were there other reasons why they didn't want to get into it?
No. Look, it was the top trending story all day yesterday. I thought that they would come out after you saw this photo and immediately say she's not part of our New Year's Eve coverage anymore. And it took them about a full day, but they eventually did get to taking her off that coverage. And look, we're at a point now where Kathy Griffin has an endorsement with Squatty Potty, a great American company. I have 3 of them, Tucker. Very catchy slogan, stools for better stools. And they, yesterday, about 5 minutes after that photo came out, said, we are denouncing Kathy Griffin. We're ending our relationship. It took CNN about another day before they were able to do the same. So that's where we're at now, where Squatty Potty is being more decisive than a cable news network that's been in existence for 40 years.
Right. So, like, the toilet company has higher standards than the news channel? Is that what you're saying? Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth now.
No. Let's move on.
So what exactly does this mean? And as a factual matter, was she employed by the channel? Was she, coming in every year? Were they paying her for that? And how long had she been doing the New Year's thing?
Oh, I would think she was absolutely compensated. She's been doing the New Year's Eve thing since 2007 with anchor Anderson Cooper from Times Square. It's a very highly rated special that they do every year, mainly because they got 2 things out of it. They got ratings because she did a provocative thing probably, or said a provocative thing, and they got virality because the clips kept moving on and on. So that's probably what delayed CNN's decision here. But look, social media is the great equalizer now in 2017, Tucker. CNN, I think, thought at first probably maybe this will blow over by December when they announce she's coming back. But if that happened, you would have boycotts, which I know you don't like, of advertisers. Yeah. You would have a PR nightmare, and you would have people screaming about this, because that is an image. Take Trump and Griffin out of it. That is an image of an American citizen holding up a beheaded head of a sitting president, mimicking our greatest enemy, you could argue, in ISIS. And that's something that's etched in people's memories that they would not forget. This is her legacy now, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, she was horrible before, just pandering to the elites and their stupid, closed-minded attitudes. So I turned into that channel yesterday to see, are they covering this? And what are they covering? Because it's kind of interesting to see their alternative reality. And this is what I saw. Watch.
being president is not agreeing with the president. He complained that his first trip overseas was going to be too long, that he wasn't looking forward to it, and he returned to the White House angry. He's gained weight, according to these sources. He doesn't trust people around him. He's withdrawing. Not a good picture. It's the one being painted by those sources.
I actually like the anchor over there who just said that, but that line, I really had to put it in my refrigerator. He's gained weight, according to sources.
According to sources. You know what the #1 complaint of the New York Times readers are? This is according to their public editors year after year. The overuse of unnamed sources. If I'm a reader just sitting at home, I'm wondering, okay, who has the motivation and the agenda to go on the record with CNN, who Trump, he hasn't appeared on that network since August of 2016. What friend of Trump is running to CNN to talk about how much of a bad mood he's in and how much weight he's gained? And what is the credibility of this source in the first place? Motive, agenda, credibility. And here's the problem, Tucker. After that story comes out, then everybody else in media picks up the story as gospel because they believe the source, who we don't know who it is and what their agenda is. And that's the whole problem with all of these bombshells that we've seen for the first 120 days of this presidency.
Well, unless it's his personal physician, I think you would have to say nobody knows what he weighs. I mean, like, what is that? It's insane. Joe, thank you for joining us and for watching all that stuff.